Hey everybody, this is Eddy Dacius. We're here for another episode. This is our 42nd episode. We have a wonderful guest. His name is Mike Ritter. He will tell us about him, and the way we like to introduce our guests is to give them the platform, the mic, and they take us to a journey. But before we get to Mike, let's introduce our sponsor. We have Divine Purpose Podcast. We have Dacius Facility Management, who sponsors in this episode.
Do you want to maximize the value of your commercial property and achieve optimal productivity and efficiency in your day-to-day business operations? That's where Dacius Facilities Management can help. DFM offers Boston area businesses help in key areas like building and preventive maintenance, handyman services, project and vendor management, and even security consulting at competitive rates. Call Dacius Facilities Management now at 617-237-0106 or visit daciusfm.com today.
Yes, Dacius FM. Call them now, 617-237-0106. All right, like we said, we have a wonderful guest. His name is Mike Ritter. Mike, how are you today?
Good. How's it going, Eddie? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. So we have Mike today. He's going to talk about himself, and let's start with the intro with Divine Purpose Podcast.
Welcome to the Divine Purpose Podcast, where we transport you along one of the more dynamic journeys of life. Have you ever been curious to know what it takes to become a successful leader? Or about knowing the secrets of life through the Bible? How about engaging in conversation where no topics are off limits? We will take you to new levels with guests who can help you grasp the importance of your calling. Now, here's your host, Eddy Dacius, founder of Dacius Facilities Management.
We said we have Mike with us. Mike, what can you tell us about you today?
Well, I can say I am a photographer. I'm living in Boston and Dorchester in particular. And I live with my wife and my two daughters. And we're in our old home we're always fixing up, which is a typical Boston story. But I finally, this year, got done with a long and painful renovation in the third floor attic. And so I have a studio space which can handle, pretty good headshot size, that kind of stuff. It can accommodate a few people. And it's nice to have that capability now in home that I can just, learn more lighting and just mess around and experiment and, have some space to keep organized, because I've learned how important that is throughout my career to just keep everything where it should be, or at least try to. So, so I live here in Boston. I work a lot with Boston clients, and in my personal work, I have come to really focus on shooting stories about Boston, and often Dorchester, in particular the Dorchester neighborhood where I live.
Thank you for sharing. We had a guest a few episodes back. He was an engineer, and he retired and he became a photographer. He's doing headshot. So how did all started for you?
So I took some classes in college, but I wouldn't say I graduated thinking I'd be a photographer. I went into my first job was at a photo lab, and then I went to a photo gallery, and then I lost the photo gallery job. I actually was fired. And
wow, sorry to hear that.
Well, you know what? It's okay. It wasn't going to work out. The guy was a good guy. He let me have unemployment. We just didn't, things didn't work out. And honestly, I don't know if I would have started working for myself if I didn't get, that jump start to it. So in a way, it was actually probably one of the better things that's happened to me in my life. It just took some time for it to pan out. So that was when I was 25, and I was already moonlighting doing photography. And once I lost the job, I was like, well, I guess I'll do this, and that's what I started to do. And I got enough of a footing once the unemployment had run out. I had enough going on that I could support the lower. I had less of a need back then, but I was able to support myself. And then things kind of developed from there. And I've always been kind of figuring out as I went. Anyway, so that's how I kind of dropped into what I do now. And I do love photography, but I feel like I've always been more of a social person, a community person. And I like how that is able to be expressed through the photography. Lots of photographers, or at least the stereotype of photographer, is like an obsessive person with a camera always shooting. And I'm definitely not that. I'm not that person. I like to take breaks from the camera. I like to just observe and kind of mentally, think about what I've been doing with the camera, but not always be shooting and not do that. So I guess I'm definitely a photographer, but I'm not exactly the, maybe the classic type of photographer.
Wow. And thank you for sharing. And I have like 3 questions for you. Hopefully I'm going to remember them. The first will be, how did everything started? Was it in high school when you started to have that feel? And you say you were a community person, social person, you're always in the community. When did you realize that, okay, this is what I like? So were you involved in sport? Can you take us to your high school and to college, and why now?
Yeah, I did. I was on the soccer team, the varsity soccer team in high school, and
wow.
I got to be the captain. I remember, which kind of surprised me because I thought I was like more. I think there were 2. One of the captains. Yeah, I thought of myself as I wasn't. I was defense. I wasn't like the player who people focus on who scored all the goals or anything. And I thought I was a generally kind of quiet person, but I was voted to be captain, and I think it just came from maybe being a kind of a steady and calm person, maybe that people liked for that. So there was that, and then I went in to I also helped run National Honor Society at high school, and I went to college, and I got to run Film Society there and build that up to like having bigger events and having more people get together and having even directors from the school come back and talk about their movies. And it was just fun seeing what I could do with it. And once I graduated, I've always worked. Before I worked on my own, I always worked in a small business environment where everyone knew each other and everyone had to be on point. And I've never had an opportunity, and I'm glad for this, to kind of just, melt into the crowd and just kind of, do my thing. And no one really knew me and I didn't know them and all that. Yeah. And then I've led a photographer organization up here, a chapter of ASMP. It's American Society of Media Photographers. Yeah. And that was very similar to what I did in college with the Film Society. Okay. You have this organization, you meet generally monthly, and it was just like, who can we bring in? Who can we get to talk? And we, over the years I was there, we got lots of really marquee, like national, international photographers to come and speak to our chapter, and got everyone together, and the social aspect was huge, always has been, and we made it work through the pandemic, and then I was able to rotate out after 6 years of doing that. But I've always kind of had that drive to bring people together and help each other. All the people in that organization, you could kind of look at each other as competition, but I really don't. I look at them more as coworkers and people that can help one another. And that's the way it has been. In the past, people could kind of be protective of how they light and how they bid and all that. But I do think a lot of that's falling away these days.
Okay.
And people are just more open, and open to helping one another. And that's I was very happy to help maybe foster that to some degree, and the community I was able to foster through that chapter.
You mentioned that there's a stereotype for photographers, like they take a lot of pictures, right? But I feel like people don't want to miss key moments, right? Are you not worried about that?
You mean if I don't photograph, like, sir? I mean, I think of it personally, I do want to photograph my daughters, and I do photograph them, but I don't have, I'm not all the time taking the picture, and I'm okay if I don't take a picture of something that's special. If I actually, because the thing is, when you have the camera, you do separate yourself from the scene a bit. And so if it's something that I sit back and I just really enjoy and soak in, I'm okay with that. And what I also do is I keep a little journal for the girls, which at some point I'll share with them. And if I just sit down and write that day, like thoughts that were, I was having through the day, or a special moment, it's a different way to kind of keep it than just having the image. And I like different media, different advantages and disadvantages. But it is wonderful having images because they do bring back memories, same as the journal entry would. But yeah, I don't. I'm pretty mindful of like how the camera separates me from them. If I start to just work that nonstop, so I like to not be doing it obsessively. And then just grabbing the images that I can. A lot of the photos I use are just off the phone, because it's there. And earlier when they were younger, I shot a lot more with my larger cameras, but now I'm shooting a little bit more with the phone, and I'm overall happy with the balance.
Okay. Let's go to memories. You talk about memories. Can you share your favorite childhood memory? And this question has like two aspects in terms of, okay, as a human being, we have favorite memories, but you as a photographers, you probably have the best memory of a shooting, of a picture. Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about that. So
you might be surprised that, I in high school, I wasn't really doing photography.
Okay.
In college, I started to.
Okay.
But for me, like a childhood memory is, it's being around family, and the thing that I really enjoyed. We grew up in Pennsylvania, and we heated our home mostly with wood. And I got to go out into the woods various points throughout the year and take down trees, cut them up, and eventually chop them with my brothers and my dad. And it was just a fun and fulfilling kind of activity, because we knew it would be heating the home with it, but we also got to spend the day together, just kind of having a good time together. And also, as we grew older, it was nice to be able to contribute more. We were able to do more, and Dad was able to take it a bit easier on the heavy lifting stuff, and that was a nice way to kind of be growing up, seeing the potential you had, even just as a young man, just for your strength building and your usefulness.
Yep,
to others.
Makes sense.
So that's something I remember fondly.
Let's talk about you talk about brothers, your family. Can you talk about your household dynamic? How many brothers? Let's try to go back in terms when you grew up. What was like, and you just mentioned you're from Pennsylvania. Yeah. And can you talk to that?
So, growing up, we had, it was more of like a guy's thing, it was three brothers and my mom and dad, a lot of male cats. So now I'm living my mom's life in reverse, in a way, because I've got two daughters, a female cat, my wife. So it's funny because I grew up in a very kind of masculine, not overly but like it was all boys, and it was wrestling all the time, and literally putting heads through walls, that kind of stuff. And then I have 2 daughters now, and I think in a way I'm blending the two because I feel like I'm raising them like sons.
I think it's natural, right? Yeah.
We wrestle all the time, there's crude humor and maybe more than I can even bear. So I was just, and my wife looks at me when that happens. It's like, I know it's me. But anyway, so it's kind of funny. There's a continuity, but now, I'm in this much more female world. And having no clue. Like I didn't have a sister, someone that could. I always think guys with sisters are a little more in tune or have a clue about the other sex.
Right. Oh, makes sense. No, and I think you and it's a big way to say it, and I appreciate the way you picture it to us, because yes, you grew up with 2 brothers, your dad and mom, right? So now you the only male, 2 daughters, your wife, and your mother-in-law. So and that's probably the case it is, and I think you're doing a good job as a father because you can balance both sides and then make sure they understand the importance. So of like having a father or more a male figure in the house. And so can we talk about what are the 3 challenging event in your life, and how did they challenge you?
Yeah. So the first would be, we talked about a bit there, like at 25 losing my job, but in the end, it really being the start to all my freelancing and, what I've been able to do in the subsequent almost 18 years. I will say, as much as we're always looking for people to inspire us and, be our mentor and all that, I think it's nice to meet people along the way in your life that say, you're not very good at this, or, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And to kind of take that in and say, you're wrong. And then, go for it. You don't want everyone to be negative in your life or to see you as not how you picture yourself, but it is helpful sometimes to have someone saying, not you. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's me. I can do it. So I am appreciative for that, what happened there on many levels. And beyond that, in about 10 years later, when I was 33, my dad had been sick for a few years with leukemia, and at that point, he died in 2013. And
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So one of my brothers and I were able to do a blood cell donation, trying to help with his bone marrow transplant, and it came close to working, but it didn't quite work out. And he was the one who gave me his camera when I started to get interested in photography. He supported what I was doing throughout. He liked, the angle I was taking on it initially. I kind of sat down for that first month and was just kind of gathering contacts and doing stuff. And he thought that was, he wasn't saying get out there, and, he supported kind of the tack I was taking when I was starting my career. And he was kind of thrilled throughout to see, what I was doing. So it was tough to lose him. It's tough to lose any parent. But I did see a lot in how he lived his life. He was a teacher. I saw a lot at his funeral of all these people coming back from throughout his life who he had helped and affected in positive ways. And it helped me think about, I guess my own funeral in a way, and hoping that I could have a similar kind of, quality of life and a similar impact on people. And I will say, when you lose a parent, it becomes a parent. Yeah. no pun intended. that we're all here for only so much time, really short time, and do the things you want to do and help people along the way. And that's really, it gives you a focus. Same as like when you have a kid, it gives you a focus to, there's only so much time and you have to take advantage of it. So, you know, that was a challenge for sure. But I feel like, it's helped me be more of the person that I am today that I wouldn't be, I don't think, if you know, I hadn't lost him. Not to say that I was, you know, I'm rooting for it, but it's helped me appreciate the time we do have. So, and then the last one was pretty much the challenge that we all had, was the pandemic. Like for me as a freelancer, I was fortunate, you know, I've always kind of, like I was saying, been able to support myself, but that came and
uncertainty.
Most of the income I got in 2020 was income I made in 2019 that I was just still collecting. Like jobs went to zero. And the kids were home. So I had to kind of take a break from photography essentially because I was just full-time childcare while my wife held down, you know, her job. And it turned out well in a way, because in that break I was able to think more about my photography, and I feel like I'm on a more kind of personal and meaningful kind of journey or path with it now. And I also just did a lot more cooking. I would take the kids out to a playground every day with another group with a bunch of dads who we all became pretty close because we're all doing kind of a similar thing there. So a lot of like beautiful things came out of that really challenging time. And now I'm in this interesting phase where I'm getting busy again, which is great. And then I'm also trying to keep going the personal stuff that I started doing, which was getting, you know, a lot of kind of good reviews and people were liking it. So I want to try and strike that balance more than I did in 2019 and before, when it really was mostly just working for clients, and that's fine. You got to make a living, but you want to be able to express yourself too and say the things that are meaningful to you. And I feel like the pandemic gave me a chance to kind of reset a little bit along those lines.
And I think it was for everybody, where like this is unprecedented, where nobody had experienced this before, and then we have to thrive, make decision, and focus and go forward. Let's talk about what is the best compliment you ever gotten? I'm never sure. I'm usually kind of hesitant with superlatives, but I did this recent project of free library portraits at 6 Dorchester libraries called Beautiful Dot. And a lot of people said very kind things as I did that. And things like, you know, they'd never, you know, had professional portraits before, and now they were getting them, and how much that meant to them. And, you know, one grandma, you know, really, I was about to photograph her and her daughter and her grandson, and she just kind of stopped the whole thing and just kind of really locked eyes with me and just talked about how much this meant and how, you know, good it was for the community, what I was doing. And that really, those really hit home. Just the recent ones are sticking in my mind. Those were some very nice compliments that I got recently. And otherwise, I can't think of a specific moment, but I am happy to know that, you know, my dad and my mom are, you know, I know they're proud of me, and that does make me happy. No, that's very important. So let's go to what can I ask you this? Do you have something you wish you knew before you started your career? Let me put it this way.
You never, when I was younger, I'd be thinking it's kind of the mountains beyond mountains thing.
Yeah.
You think like, oh, once I get this down, it's all gonna Makes sense. Once I bid enough jobs, I'll just know what to do each time, and it will make sense.
Yeah.
And the thing is, first of all, that doesn't happen. And second, you don't want that to happen. Because the minute that you kind of know what everything's going to be, how everything's going to work out, how everything works,
yeah,
you're going to be bored out of your mind. So I would be telling myself, like, you know, you're never going to, you can have different levels of looking like you have it figured out, but you never quite do have it all figured out, you know, and it's impossible, and you don't want that anyway, even though we kind of strive for it.
Right.
So that's something that pops to mind from that question.
So is there an advice you can share with somebody who's studying their photography career right now?
So I think it's kind of for photography, but it's also for lots of things. Okay. For me, what worked is really settling down in one place. Get to know it. Subscribe to newspapers, local newspapers from the place. Read them every day. Learn who the movers and shakers are. Go out to the neighborhood associations. Volunteer, you know, and once you get enough of a hang of issues, become an activist and try and improve your local community. And I've lived in Dorchester since 2005. Okay. Which keeps me still a relative newbie for plenty of people in their mind. Yes. You know, you're never, unless if you were born here, you know, like, and that's fine. I kind of like having the outside eye, you know, perspective on some things, but I find it tremendously gratifying to be part of a community, to help people in it the best I can, but also to be helped by it. When I was starting out, people in Dorchester really, who had known me, kind of rallied around and started landing me jobs and helping. I feel like a lot of things can be too, these days, it's way too easy to kind of be connected with people, but you're not, you know? And the only way, in my opinion, like the online stuff works, but to me, it works best when it's actually like backed up by your real relationship too with a person. And then you're connected with them, and it's not like you've, you know, never met them and, you know, but you're friends. So for me, then being part of the community, I have stories I want to tell in it. It gives me, you know, fuel for my photography. And it gives me satisfaction and, you know, trying in some, whatever ways I'm capable to improve the community and celebrate it and just be part of it. I mean, I don't know the exact studies, but I think it's pretty much confirmed. Like, you know, we're social animals, and we need to be with each other. That's part of why the pandemic was so hard for lots of us, is the isolation. And so, anyway, I say, you know, settle in someplace and really, you know, really soak it up and improve it the best you can. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. Like, some photographers are itinerant travelers, and that wouldn't be for them. But overall, this worked for me, and I also think it works for people in a lot of fields. You know, a lot of professions, or just in general. I think it's good to have roots and participate in your community.
And well said. So we're getting close to our break. We're going to take a break and then come back with Mike Ritter. Mike is a photographer in Dorchester. Let's go on break now.
What comes before making a smart decision? Choices. A smart choice is the best option, which is who we are. That's why our clients expect more from us and, in return, get more in everything we do. We understand the problem. That's why we thrive for excellence. We don't just create a winning culture. We aspire to be a smart choice, a voice for solutions. We believe in integrity, professionalism, and teamwork. Our passion is to bring results from our clients by working harder, smarter, and faster. As a team, we always deliver because we recognize your needs. Choosing smart influences us to be the best version of ourselves. That makes us different than other companies. It makes us confident in achieving our goals. It makes us who we are. And it makes us DFM, the smart choice.
Yeah, fam, this is Eddy Dacius with Mike Ritter. So we're very excited to have him. So this is our second part. We have some more questions for Mike. So Mike, one thing I realize is when you start your own business, and some people might have mentors, they have people in their circle who did the same thing. But most of us are the only one doing it. We are the pioneers in our maybe family and a circle. Can you take us back to your first job? And or did you take us to the process? Get the job, or did you negotiate your pay? And what was the job about?
My first job, I worked at a 1-hour photo lab / frame shop. And I think I came in, honestly, a little bit snooty, looking down my nose maybe a bit at it, honestly. And I learned I learned so much on that job. I got the boss who hired me is a wonderful friend here in Boston still. And I just learned so much about people and customer service and seeing how he interacted with people. Seeing his general outlook on life was just, so rewarding. And negotiating the pay, I was fresh out of college, and I was just grabbing a job before the Christmas crush of 2002, I believe. And negotiating wasn't my forte then. I think I took whatever was offered to me. But then I was working the counter. Then I got to work back and become the lab manager. And there, I think I started to get a little more okay, this is what I'm worth, which is something we all have to figure out as freelancers continually. And actually at that job, I did meet my mentor in being a working photographer, and that was JD Sloan. He was coming through, dropping off rolls of film. And once he found out that I had, lost my job, the subsequent job, he took me out a few times, had me just kind of watch him work, had me help him, took me out to just show me photo books, took me out just to talk life photography and everything. And I learned a lot from him of just what it is to be a photographer. So anyway, taking that job, which I didn't really know what I was doing or thought it wasn't exactly for me, that turned out to really give me a strong footing. And once again, I think where I've landed and who I've become. And so it's kind of a funny thing, I think, in life, that there's a lot of things that we pursue, charge, chase. And they're probably not the best things for us to actually get. And then there's a lot of things that we run away from and think poorly on or don't want to do. And it's actually the best that we have to end up dealing with them or do them and then realize, we don't have the perfect path in our mind. We have to kind of, experiment and be out in the world and see what happens. So flexible. I always think of that. You don't have what despite what you think, you might not know what's best for you all the time. Sometimes someone else might know, or life might just throw you something your way, which turns out to be better in the end, So it's okay if you don't kind of hit that thing that you're going for. And it's okay if that thing that you're running away from catches up to you. And now you see what happens, when that does happen.
Let's talk about your mentors, and so I know you just mentioned one here. So is there anyone who has been your most important mentors in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I would, my dad was a wonderful one. I think he taught me a good deal about, like, it was a healthy example of, what a man could be, strong, but not aggressive, and, all the things that can get caught up in what, people would call masculine or whatever, toxic masculinity these days. Like he was a really good person and good teacher. Like, he was a teacher. It was his profession. And there was a lot of patience and love and understanding in him. And then my boss at the camera store, Doug, similar, just a man comfortable in his skin, knowing who he was, kind and funny. And then JD, my photographer mentor, who I met through Stone Photo. And once again, like, he taught me so much in photography, but he also taught me, like, he had some tremendous painful events in his life. And he didn't, curl up and withdraw. He kept on getting back out there and looking to, be part of life, be with people, connect with people, which be present. And connecting and presence are two very important things for a photographer when you're making your work. And so I always looked at him in a bit of awe of how he, was able to absorb that pain and turn it into something, not get crushed by it, but use it to, for some positive good in the world. And all three of those guys, were more than comfortable saying, I love you. Once again, I feel like they're just great examples of, men for me to emulate.
Well said. So let's go about this question. This question for me is important for people to get, where they will. Okay, so when did you realize you made it? Like, the reason I like to ask this question about, like, imposter syndrome. So sometimes we got ourselves in a situation, we're not comfortable, we're not confident, So, but is there a moment when you said, "Oh, I got this now"? So, like, Mike Ritter just arrived, So, can you share a moment like that?
I kind of believe this happens, and I kind of believe it isn't true either at the same time. I think only recently I'm starting to get kind of a confidence in what I'm doing with photography and an understanding of what I'm doing in photography.
Yeah.
And that helps. My cousin became a singer, and I think he had mentioned you need to have enough ego to get onto the stage, but it has to be, that can't be the only thing you're up there for, or whatever, like, you have to have enough confidence, you have something to say, but you also can't just then get completely wrapped up in yourself and, just think you're the, best thing since, sliced bread or whatever it is. So there's a balance in, ego, confidence, and then, what you do with those versus, maybe getting caught up in it in a way that some people do, where they just think they're amazing. Actually, I think the people that are overly confident are the ones that are the least confident. And I think,
can you repeat that louder?
I think the people that project the most confidence are often the most insecure people. And I think you had mentioned of, a question for you to ask earlier, in the form of, like, something that I wish you asked. There's a podcast that I listen to called The Messy Truth, which is more fine art photographers. Okay. And the host always asks, like, what do you do with self-doubt? And I always think it's always framed as this, like, thing to get over. And just deal with. Unfortunately, we all have to deal with it. And my response would be, I'm happy to have self-doubt to a degree.
Okay.
It keeps you honest.
Wow.
It keeps you trying to do your best work. You know, and if you didn't have it, you would be a detestable person. You know.
Mike, I'll stop you on this because what you said make a lot of sense. Please take your time, dive deep, because this is true, and I want you to please elaborate on that.
Yeah. A doubt can be a good thing.
Okay.
In like all things, you know, to a degree, to have some, you can't be, you know, crippled by it. But if you don't have doubt, a mix of doubt and confidence, I find is necessary and realistic in life, you know. But there is, I mean, like when you see someone who, you know, like whatever it is, a scientist, a comedian, a musician, a professor, but you can just sense it. You know that person started out doing this. They were probably awful, unless if they were a prodigy. But they stuck with it, and now they have this amazing blend of an amazing knowledge and experience to draw from, but they also can relate to what it was like without having that. And I always think of that like with a teacher, you know, the best teachers, whatever it is, whether they're a professional teacher or just, you know, someone in life, who can really communicate well to others and teach essentially. They know something inside and out, but they also can relate to what it is being a student or just starting out with it. And they can throw these, you know, lifelines or build these bridges to get people from the beginning to the middle to, you know, headed towards some level of excellency in their own life.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
The teachers that know stuff inside and out, but then all they can do is like sit on that island of knowledge and just kind of scream, and none of it makes sense because like all their words are, you know, they're not making it make sense to someone who doesn't already live on that island.
Mike,
you know?
Yeah.
So
I share, and I'm gonna share one story with me where what you said makes perfect sense. So I coach soccer. I'm a soccer player. I used to play soccer. I was a forward. But for the last
defense, I like to disappoint you. Sorry, go ahead.
I always capitalize on my opportunities. That's something I'm probably gonna get you in trouble too. But what I'm saying is, coaching soccer. Unfortunately, I have my license. I'm a licensed coach. I have a D license from the US. The problem I have was there was a guy I know, he's the varsity head coach. But I check his record. He never coached a third team. Like a third team means freshman. Where some people, they are trying out soccer. They cannot play. Like they don't know better. And then you still have to work the same amount of time, which is like probably 2 hours, with everybody else, and then get them to believe and get them to play a sport they never been part of it and they just new to it. Sitting down as a varsity head coach where you're doing a lot of recruiting, like you're picking up your players. That means you're taking the best players. You have some success, but you just sit on that island. Because my result would be different than your result, because instead of implementing a strategy or game plan, I'm working on individual development.
Mm-hmm.
how to block, how to pass, check your shoulders, stay in front of the ball, all these things. But you just creating different things because your level is different, and not having that understanding where you say, oh, let me support him because he's in the most different situation, and the result will be different for either team, where I'm probably going to lose a lot of games. You're probably winning a lot of games. But at the end of the day, we're trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Where, going back to what you were saying, there are some people, they sit on that island, but they can't relate to people that's trying to make it for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, like, you guys are part of there's a continuity to what you do, right? You kind of get people going on it, and then he works with them once they're already, like, yeah, I like to play
on
soccer.
the peak. Yeah.
And each phase has its own challenges, rewards, and maybe, different personalities and skill sets are best used in, those two phases.
Yeah.
Right. Like, maybe, he can, once the spark is started, he can, keep it going, but he's not the greatest at starting the spark, kind of.
I'm not gonna say his job is better or is less challenged, but mm-hmm. the same way, he should be understanding me. Like, for me, I coach Milton Academy mm-hmm. soccer, right? There's this opportunity where if you make varsity, there's a lot of challenging you can't get, because varsity is like the peak of the mountain. If you get there, you're confident, or everybody, but everybody at the bottom think they should be on varsity level. And you have to deal with people who, the reality, the ego you were talking about, like, they think they're that confident, and then they're not. And you kind of have to help them check with reality, where you need to work harder. And I have some people on my team, they never play club. And I will guarantee you 80% or 85% of people, like varsity players, they play club. They have a personal trainer. But the thirds, they just got to soccer. They might play club in a few years, but at this moment of their life, they're not there yet. Some people, hockey is their primary sport. Baseball, and then they're just doing soccer because their friends, they're trying to make friends. So that's like kind of take me to what you were saying. And my question would be, how important for you to be grounded and understanding who you are and focus on your strength and experience?
So much comes from that, I think. And for anyone, we're all figuring ourselves out. But a bit of, as I was talking about earlier, when you meet someone who has that healthy confidence, has that self-awareness and knowledge, I think you can recognize it pretty quickly. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. There's just a level of comfort that comes from that. And then I think a lot of things can spring from that. Yeah. They can be an extremely kind person. They can be an extremely, they could compete if they have to, but they don't sit there and make everything a competition. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorite traits to see in someone is that, they've mastered something, they've mastered themselves. And then now they're free to focus on, okay, yeah, this internal thing is maybe we never figured out entirely, but I have it under control. Now I'm going to look out from me externally to what I can do, with and for other people. And what can I do with what I know with and for other people? And you're not sitting there wrapped up in your own stuff all the time. You're with you're with others and helping them. Because I guess we're all doing that, right? Like figuring ourselves out, but then also figuring out our place in the world. It's all connected. But I think, when you're sorted out on the inside, at least relatively decently well, then you're free to explore the external in a more less egotistical way and more productive way, I think.
Wow, that was great, Mike. Let's go to Hot Topic. I don't know if you're ready for Hot Topic. Hot Topic is a fun segment where we talk about important topic, question related to your career, question our audience they won't have a chance to ask you. Let's go with Hot Topic with Mike Ritter. All right, we're here with Mike Ritter, and we're gonna ask him some questions about this is Hot Topic segment. So my question for Mike is, as a photographer, what is an angle, and how important is it?
An angle?
Yeah.
So for me, an angle is you shoot for a while and you start to figure out what you're doing. And I mean that in the sense of, but first you're learning like the ins and outs of just simply, visually telling stories and ways to make photos impactful. But after a while, you shoot long enough and you start to see themes in your work and interests in your work. And you start to figure out just what you're best at and what you can do most effectively with the camera. Yeah. So to me, and I'm almost 18 years in my freelance career, and really I feel like only in the last maybe 3-4 years have I started to kind of start to get a feel for my angle.
Wow.
Like what I want to do with it and what I can do with it.
No, that was great to hear. So let's go with this question. What is the future hold for you?
I see myself being in Boston, being in Dorchester, and balancing photography with my family life, and looking to tell stories that I feel are very important in my personal work while I go.
Yeah. And
hoping to be the kind of the type person that I was describing earlier in my dad and Doug at Stone Photo, the store manager, and JD, my freelance mentor, being that type person and even more so that type man, I think. So that's continuing on the path that I'm on, but seeing what can come next from the work, and being, being okay with, maybe I'm not going to like take this job, that job. Maybe I'm not going to, do this really intense photography thing because I want to, I do want to have a personal life with my kids and my wife. And once again, kind of a stereotypical photographer can be the type that the work's there and just take it. And I want to find a balance there where it's like, I don't want to have to take every job that comes my way because I do want to be home and I'm okay with that. Maybe I won't take like the, certain work that could kind of, push me further professionally in some ways, but then also limit me in my personal life. So that's being a freelancer is always challenging, finding the right balance, and you never quite do. But I am trying to be better on the personal front. When you're starting out, you kind of have to just throw everything at it. And luckily enough, I started out when I was just dating my wife and no kids, and and that was permissible. Yeah. But there comes a point where, it's not that you slow down, but you just get more intentional.
Yeah. And Well, Mike, thank you for this opportunity because to hear about your story, and we had a great time with you. So we getting to the end to our episode. So is there a question you wish I asked you today? I think
we talked about the they talked about the self-doubt thing. That to me is, like in a lot of things in life are like that. Like everything is two-sided, I feel. Yeah. Pretty much everything, and just that framework of the way I've always heard the question asked on that podcast of just like, oh man, how do you deal with that? Oh, don't you just wish it wasn't there? And just flipping it around, like, can you imagine if it wasn't there? Yeah. Yeah.
So which of your accomplishment are you the proudest? That should be your last question, Mike.
Being married for pushing 12 years now.
Wow.
My wife has supported my work, put up with my work, and she's a really lovely person, and I'm lucky to, have her in my life. So I would say my marriage.
Oh, wow. Well said. Well said. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it. Last word for you.
I'd like to say thank you very much for having me, Eddie. I really appreciate it. It was lots of fun.
All right, this is Eddy Dacius with Divine Purpose Podcast. We had Mike Ritter with us. He's a photographer. You can reach him. We're going to plug his information. If you're in Boston, Dorchester area, you can bump into him and ask him questions. You're going to hear this episode. This episode is available on all major platforms, on YouTube, on www.dppodcast.com. And we thank our sponsor, that's his Facility Management and This Day Design. Mike, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right, Eddie. Thank you.
All right.